All right, so this is the second part two of the LCOE video. Now, this is really embarrassing. I made that other video, the first one, just to kind of get everything started and say that there were four methods. There were four methods of computing the LCOE, and then I somehow lost the file. So I redid this. I actually did this with a really nice class I had the other night, last night. And so this is kind of interesting. So we have these different, this time I put some different projects, a solar project. Let's make it 700. Okay. And I made the OPEX 10. Remember this weird one from some American guy had 806. I don't know what kind of project it is, supposed to be even a wind project. A bizarre one, only 25% capacity factor. I put a little higher one on wind. And we wanted to look at a solar project, and we wanted to show the effect of the life on a hydro project. Let's put 30 as our lifetime. And then remember, you don't have to remember, it's if you're just watching this video. A big deal is if you put in the inflation, I keep on emphasizing, and I think I'm getting closer. I really do. Just put the inflation rate and then put this is kind of out of order, isn't it? Put the required IRR in it. And this required IRR should be always the pre-tax project IRR. This is what I'm going to really start to emphasize. So if you have a fancy uh, um, get some words out. If you have a fancy project finance model, you should compute the pre-tax IRR. I hope you do that. And maybe you put a target equity IRR in, and you put sculpting and the DSRA and the equity bridge loan and everything you want to put all your fancy financing in. At the end of the day, when you have a target equity IRR, that will also give you a target project IRR, which is just the no financing whatsoever, the EBITDA versus the capex, and the IRR on that. I'll do that again, and I'll show you below. And then we compute the real IRR just below there. That's the IRR that is 1 plus the nominal divided by 1 plus the real minus 1. Hetty told me, people are asking me about real and nominal these days. Okay, I don't know why. And then we can put a carrying charge with the PMT function, but we can do that both in real, the same life, PMT with the rate, and then the life, and then a minus 1. And then we can put the capital recovery, which is the capex per the currency per KW divided multiplied by this carrying charge, which is the cost to carry this capex over the 20-year life, and we have a different a value that's driven by the life. And what we're going to do is add a construction element to this. We need a construction period, and we need some taxes. And we're going to put the financing in. But then once we have the capital recovery in real terms per kW year, we multiply it by 1,000 and divide it by the hours, and the hours are 8,766 times the capacity factor. Okay, and then we get our we do the same thing and get our capital recovery factor per kW year per megawatt hour, exactly the same thing. And finally, we can put no, not finally, we put our O&M costs in real terms, which is per megawatt hour. Excuse me, I've got the O&M cost per kW year up here, and we just put them we just multiply them by 1,000 to get them in megawatts and divide them by the generation again to get it in megawatt hours per year. I'm almost violating my F2 because I can't see everything, but that's close enough. And then finally, the LCOE is just the capital recovery plus the O&M. Oh, no, not finally. For the nominal O&M, we have to be a little bit careful. We have to inflate our O&M if we're going to do things in nominal terms, and this is where you can use this PV and use the same rate. And PV of you put the real rate in at the top, G15, and then you put the PV using the nominal rate and the G number 10. Well, that's the life, G number 10. I could make sure that this is all applying the F2 rule where you can see everything. Okay, and then you've got your nominal, excuse me, then it's per kW year, you're just converting it, and this is the per megawatt year real with no inflation. This is a levelized over time. This formula, which I never used to use, and I'm going to start using over and over and over again, or do something in your models to show what the real and nominal levelized cost of O&M is. Okay, and then we get our LCOE. And then with my little class, I said, okay, well, let's put our nominal amount in. We just put now the nominal price comes from over here. Maybe we almost want an arrow. No, we don't. Okay, what happens if you press Alt-MD? Oops, no. Alt-MAA. What happens if you press Alt-MD here? Has a nice little arrow, okay? And then we get the generation from up here, and what I did was just put a little index function with a code number here, and this index function just picks one of the projects. No big deal. And then we correspond the LCOE, the price, to to a financial model. So this is our little driver, this is our generation, and the very first thing we always have to do is make sure and put a little flag here and take our price and generation, and then okay, I got interrupted as usual because my computer overheated. So we get now, if we use this one, which is the nominal amount, not the real amount. Notice the real and the nominal are here. And we just hold this nominal price flat. Okay, we just hold this nominal price flat and then put the generation and then put our nominal revenues in. And then when we get down to the O&M cost, we'll put a little inflation index using, these are all the drivers that come from all of this column over here. Then we'll get our EBITDA, put our capex as our minus, and everything's in a megawatt. So we take a megawatt hour, a cost per megawatt, an O&M cost per megawatt, we inflate it. And the good news is the result is exactly the 5.5. So we've just done a little financial model that proves that this carrying charge system and this inflation of the O&M, they all work. But we can also do it in real terms. If we do it in real terms, we begin with an inflation index and we take the real price, not the nominal price. This is the real price. And I argue strenuously that this real price should be the real LCOE. This is the much better measure of the true cost of the project relative to other projects. Okay, and then we put in our inflated price, just multiply this by the 1.02, and as usual, the F2 thing's working, and you can see where everything comes. Okay, that's such an important kind of thing to do. And then we get our revenues and our revenues this time escalate. Okay, and then our EBITDA escalates along with the revenues. And then when we put our escalation in, beginning with the real price instead of the nominal price, the look at this. I cannot talk and type at the same time anymore. We get exactly our target IRR back each time. So this little exercise so far demonstrates that. And then this is what we've done kind of last time. We do the same thing, and if I'm repeating myself and you're pissed off, and somebody sent me a response that I'm a nerd just now. Oh, well, okay, so what? I guess there are worse things to be called. I could call it fascist or something. Okay, let's so now we can, if we take the NPV of these revenues, and this is an NPV of the nominal revenues that are going up over time. These revenues go up and up and up over time, and then we take the NPV of the generation, again at the nominal rate. I'm shouting a little bit. And then we divide those two. That's our famous NPV formula, and we get exactly the initial price. So if you want to take your model and get the NPV, maybe this is almost too obvious to say, this is why you do it. Okay. On the other hand, if you put in if you put in a real, you want to use this formula to get the real rate. All you do is, that's why this real rate is so important up here. You use the real rate instead of the nominal rate. And remember, I'm repeating myself too many times. In your project finance model, this number could come. It's a nominal number that could come from all your IRR targets and everything else. It's kind of an output from the model, okay, and it's pre-tax. It's important, okay. And now so this time if you use the real rate adjusted for inflation, not the nominal rate, and do the same thing. You just take the same NPV of the nominal revenues divided by the NPV of the real revenues. You get exactly the same as this real rate. So finally, I'm trying to really put everything together. Then we put the cost basis. So you could take, and we have to really be careful. We're going to have to do a little bit of future valuing if we have some construction costs. And we might have to put some cost of capital that's foregone during the construction period. And we don't sit here and call it IDC or anything like that. It's the foregone overall project IRR if we're going to adjust for a construction period, which we're going to do in a minute. Okay, and we're going to get the formulas right. And that's why Excel is a good tool. Instead of writing somebody else's formula down who you think did something fancy, just work through it yourself. Okay, and then let's so we got this, in this case we're using the hydro with 3,000 USD per kW, and this is per megawatt, so you multiply it. I should have put the units in here. And then for the NPV of the O&M costs, you can use a PV factor, and on the real, yes, on the real amount, use a PV factor that goes over the lifetime of the project and uses a nominal rate, and that gives you the total cost. And I just said that horribly. I'm really embarrassed. It's the where did I put it? The L25. I was completely wrong. L25 is the nominal, not the real O&M. It's this 28, and this is such an idiotic thing to do. I should be. This stupid rainbow program would never get this. But right here, oh, this is the 50 years. I see. That's not the O&M. I need to put O&M factors here, something like this. You just can't do everything in one line, and don't try to. Then maybe that's my new suggestion for the day, idiotic suggestion. But get the nominal amount, not the real amount. Get the life here up here. So this is the life, and maybe put NPV and nominal nom o comma life. How's that? Is that close enough? No stupid rules. And then take the PMT of the, not the PMT, the PV. We're getting it to today. Use the nominal rate, take the number of periods, and take the payment and express that as a minus, and then multiply the whole thing by 1,000 to get it from because we're doing the USD per megawatt, not per kilowatt. You get the megawatt, and you notice this number is the same as all the rest. And then you divide it by the same generation, and we're finished. And now let's do our final method. So this is, we start with the LCOE here. We have a little proof with a financial model. We have a NPV of generation. And finally, we have the weighted average price. And we're going to illustrate how to get this 39 USD nominal one when we start with the inflated price. When we take our real price up here, this is our real price. I suppose if you really wanted to do it like this, you could start here, Shift Control C. How's that? And then you put in the generation, and this time you use the nominal discount factor, even though I said real. I'm fixing it to nominal. Okay, and then you get the discounted value of the generation, and then you put a weighting in here. Okay, that's enough. That's a review. Before we get into the taxes, let's do one more thing. Let's talk about degradation. And for batteries and for solar a little bit, and for other projects, I don't know what other projects. Hydrogen, I don't think we have much degradation. This is where I'm going, by the way. We're going to put that in. Let's put just maybe above the inflation rate. Let's put degradation. The amount. Okay, I told you so many times that's what's happening to me. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to make videos anymore. I'm making a ton of videos about Monte Carlo simulation, about how to upload files, all this stuff about credit analysis. I haven't made enough lately, and that's the only joy I get in life anymore. My other life sucks so bad. Not really. I have some grandkids. So let's put let's say this degradation is really big in this one. Okay. Now, what you can do for the degradation, one way to treat the degradation, it depends how you do it. You have to be a little bit careful. Some people I've seen, when they put degradation, they say 1 plus the degradation and they divide it. Or you can put the degradation, I didn't explain that very well. You could say, okay, let's make an index. 1%, 1%. This 1% per year would be enormous. And we just make an index that grows and then take our generation and divide it by that. Or you could take the degradation factor and say, multiply it by the like an inflation rate. Just it's like a negative inflation rate. And let's make it a negative inflation rate because that's going to be much easier. And then what we do is uh, 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 just a minute. Now, I hope this is going to work. What we can do is make an adjusted uh, required return adjusted for our inflation rate. Okay. Uh, 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 adjusted. Let's try it with one thing. So what we can do is kind of like we did for the inflation rate this time. Instead of making it lower, it'll be higher. We'll take 1 plus the 5.5% and then divide it by 1 minus the degradation rate, and then put minus 1. Okay, so in this case we adjusted our rates in some cases and not in others. And then let's, when we compute, let's just do the nominal case first. And in the nominal case, put the adjusted up, put the adjusted amount in. I wonder if I'm going to have to do this. And then when we put our O&M in nominal terms, let's use our nominal return. So we can make our little adjustments down here. And then when we put our generation, let's put a degradation. Generation, how about right here? We'll put generation without degradation. I can't believe I can't. Oh my God, I'm really losing it today. I've really lost it. I screamed at somebody who I overpaid for my phone and they treated me like a complete, said I was an idiot because I didn't know how these US leases work or something like that. Oh my God, I went nuts. Who cares? Okay, and then that's our solar project, and we'll put the same amount like we do all the time in, and you notice what I did was I know that I'm going to want use that generation line in other places. So I'd rather, if I have to fix something, I'd rather fix it here, and then over here let's put our degradation in. Okay, and let's make it so it's just an index, and it's just a, so I'm going to do something else. Excuse me. I'm going to put degradation index, and maybe that's a, a little bit of a thing here, and we'll put a 1. And this is this thing when I mean we'll multiply it by this. And I remember somebody telling me, no, you should increase it and then divide it. And then our generation is just this multiplied by this. Okay, and so our generation is going down a little bit, and eventually it goes down kind of by a lot, and our revenues are multiplied by the price as usual. And I am totally afraid. I'm totally afraid because of number one. Did we change the inflation? Did I change? I think I did, right? I'm losing it. Like I said, yes, I used the new adjusted rate of return, and then we get exactly the same return. Okay, that's, and maybe that's, let's just leave that. Okay, and the interesting part here. Let's go down. There are probably some mistakes. We still get the right answer in real terms too. So our degradation, this is so exciting that I didn't completely muck it up. We put a higher number here, and what did I do? Where did I thought I had fixed the index for this stuff, and apparently I didn't. Oh no. And I thought I had fixed this one. I was sure I did. Oh, I don't want other. I wanted this example, the one that man put. I'm gonna put 2%, and apparently I didn't copy this one down. Okay, and did I copy the rest of them down? So now we can do a little sensitivity analysis. Let's put our 1% degradation, and we get our IRR coming out. We get this IRR coming out, and then we put our NPV of generation. Now this time when you do the NPV of generation, remember something, that NPV of generation is this line, blah, 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 that's wrong, It should be this. I'm going to put the NPV, and now I'm worried about the real terms, and I'm going to obviously have to cut off the video, and maybe I shouldn't have tried making the video while I'm changing something. Good. But when we do that generation, we get the 36, and that 36 is exactly up here. It's the same thing. And then we take the real generation. Now this is at 28.28, and this one gave us 28.28. And I'm going to pause the video just for a split second. In real terms, I didn't get the right answer, but if you remember, I was a little worried about all this, and I did the carrying charge in real and not nominal. And what we should have done is do the same thing when I made this adjustment and divided it by this. I should have divided it by this times 1 minus the degradation. So this formula is a tiny little bit more complicated, isn't it? And when we do that, then we put in I hope I didn't have another adjustment to make. We'll just see in a minute. And I think I do. Oops. So after the latest pause, I made a little bit of a change. I finally got the stupid degradation, okay? In our regular LCOE sheet, okay, do I have any, I have this O&M cost real, okay, and O&M cost nominal, LCOE real, LCOE nominal. This is the case that all works with no degradation. And the key thing that I've now understood from myself from making this video is that you need to get a framework built, and then you need to convince yourself that everything's really working. So when we put degradation in here, when we put the degradation in here, I adjusted the degradation and I divided it by 1 minus the degradation rate. I adjusted the real and nominal discount factors, both the real and the nominal discount factors. And since I multiplied it by 1 minus the degradation rate, I put it on the bottom like a inflation. If I would have said, okay, let's take the degradation rate, multiply it and divide it later, when you take 1 plus blah, 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 and then divide it, you would have put it on the top. And all you have to do is adjust you need to adjust the discount rates, just like we did for inflation, both real and nominal. And once we did that, then we can get a real carrying charge rate. And once we get yes, exactly, a carrying charge rate. And then we need to also adjust the O&M costs. And the O&M costs have to essentially be inflated or deflated along with the decommissioning, just like we did for the others. And then when we do that, here is the great news. So and you can check this. You know what I'm going to do is put a zero. We're on this kind of case. And remember, I suppose I can put up here, I can put 1, 2, 3, 4. So to remember what case we're on, we just select this area, okay, just like a scenario analysis. And then you go to home and you go to conditional format and you don't use all the standard things and you go down to new rule, the last one, well, the last one before the other stuff. And then you use a formula, and then you go to the top, this one, and you click on that one, and you say, okay, when that one equals, and then you click on this one, and you notice this one is allowed to be flexible across the column, but we're going to keep it on that same row, and then you put this one, and you format it, and we can fill it, and choose a nice color, and press OK. Okay, it's not that bad. So that's the example we're choosing. And I'm going to put zero inflation in there just to kind of demonstrate how this works. So we started with 6 USD of O&M expense, but we increased it to 6.54 because as we're still going to pay that 6 all the time, but as you have more and more degradation, that becomes a higher number because that 6 as a percentage of the KW then goes down. That's what I had to adjust for. And to do that, you need to use the discount rate, this discount rate where you take the regular old discount rate, just like you before, when we got the real discount rate. Now I can't show it really, but we said divided by 1 plus the inflation. This time you include 1 minus the degradation in here, just like you did 1 plus the inflation. So the degradation is kind of opposite from that. And then you can see what happens. We hold the O&M cost flat, okay, and it works. And then when we put it in real terms, we have the same amount with no inflation. Okay, we hold the O&M flat, good. That was what was supposed to happen. We can see that in the model, but we need to add a little adder to that because when we do that as in terms of a LCOE, in terms of a ratio on our a megawatt hour, we need to add that factor in, and by adding that factor in and putting that in the price, in the real price and nominal price, this with no inflation, we have the same thing, and the financial model produces our IRR. So that's how to work through it. My friend Maximiliano, he was going crazy a little bit with these LCOEs and which formula should I use? Is my financial model working? He kept on telling me I got to put a higher IRR in, which we'll discuss in the very next video. Okay, but that's how you get degradation in here, and it's a little bit tricky. It is a little bit tricky. Okay, we're not finished. There are a few issues to go through. There's going to be one issue where we have to really establish what happens if we have some lifetimes that are different. That for me is a big issue. But right now, let's move to taxes. So why don't you go to the instead of this Alt-E-M, and we'll create another copy and put it right here before the sheet, and this time we'll do the taxes. Now, I think we're going to start, whoops, when we put the taxes in, we're going to start with the uh, uh, no depreciation. When we put depreciation in, we can put the value of the tax depreciation shield, essentially. But right now, where should we put it? Maybe up here by the degradation. Let's put an income tax rate, okay? And let's say that's 30%, okay? Seems to be changing everywhere in the world. And then we put remember the index on this one, and then we can put different income tax rates in for different projects, okay? Now, my supposition, which might be wrong, is that when we go down to these uh, discount rates, we need to put a pre-tax discount rate, okay, with a percent P dot A. And let's begin in a case where we don't complicate things too much. We have let's take this one with zero inflation right now. So the real and nominal discount rates are all the same. And then we need a pre-tax rate. So we take both the nominal and we divide that by 1 plus the 1 minus the income tax rate. So we get a higher discount rate. And that higher discount rate, this higher discount rate is because, for example, if I'm earning 7.86 pre-tax, and then I multiply that by 1 minus the tax rate, okay, well, I better get a 5.5. So we need, when we're doing this, the reason it's pre-tax and we divide by 1 minus the tax rate instead of multiplying by 1 minus the tax rate, we better do it. What's the order I'm doing it here? Nominal, real. So maybe I'll put nominal and then we'll put real below. And that means if I really am a little bit consistent, there's no reason we can never be consistent. We can put the nominal consistently before the real and move all of these down. Okay, so now let's so now when we compute this carrying charge rate, it should be adjusted for both the degradation and the income tax rate. And I suppose while we're at it, let's see if I'm probably going to get everything wrong, but let's put pre-tax discount rate real. Okay, and again, in your financial model, I think it's important to start at the beginning. In your financial model, I'm just thinking about this guy who called me a nerd. Oh, should I care about that? I don't think so. Let's take this real rate adjusted for the discount, divided by 1 minus the tax rate. Okay. With all of these things, you could get fancier, and I suppose these things could change over time. But right now, we're on the example, and we have the same thing for both the real and the nominal. And we're going to have to be a little bit careful as to which rate we use, which discount rate we use when we adjust these O&M costs. Okay, so it's all getting a little more complicated, isn't it? Okay. Oh, give a crap about that. That's for sure. So let's now go, and so now we have, if we just stop here, oh, come on. I didn't adjust the carrying charge rates, did I? So now we should take the pre-tax discount rate rather than the after-tax discount rate, Shift Control P. Okay, and I suppose I might as well, while I'm at it, do the same thing for the after-tax real. I really hope I'm not going to mess up and have to pause this video about 8 zillion times to get it right. So now we have the same price LCOE for the real and the nominal, and of course we get, I say of course, but we get our higher number, and interestingly enough, some of these, I've got to look at of some of these in a minute, okay? All right, I didn't put taxes in, so it's all a little bit of a mess right now. So we have our EBITDA. And now let's just pretend, again, I'm not putting any tax depreciation shield. That's how you can think of it. And let's put our income taxes. Okay, and let's do the same thing, always take our driver and put it over in the left-hand column for the income tax rate. Okay, and this time, since we have nothing to take away, I'm just going to put this in, and then we now our EBITDA minus taxes, so we get our project cash flow as the difference. And okay, when you put in the tax, this took me a second to do, but it's worthwhile. First of all, I gotta absolutely emphasize that I'm putting in an all equity situation first, and I'm also not including any tax shield for the depreciation. Okay, so with if we just have some imaginary thing where we don't get any depreciation deductions and uh, um, we don't have any interest deductions that are tax deductible, if we don't have anything like that, then, and I put an extreme 50% tax rate, which in my younger days used to be kind of close to the truth for corporations. It's dramatically changed since then. If I put in a zero tax rate here, look at down here the LCOE. That basically cuts in half. We used to say there's with 50% tax rate, it's a 2-for-1 price. To get the same income, you've got to double the price. Now, I think I don't have if I put O&M expenses, of course, then the O&M expense will be you used to call that a 1-for-1, and any kind of capital recovery will be a 2-for-1. Okay, so now, again, the issue here is you take the carrying charge. You don't take, I thought it would be the required return. I'm sorry, the adjusted return. No, it's you take the adjusted return. Let's put some degradation in here too. How about that? And then you include the pre-tax. Now, of course, when we this is going to be tricky actually. When we put uh, uh, the tax deductions in for the interest, this will change. But right now, if you look at, we have 59 as the price, and this one, that's the real price, 70 is the nominal price. We put in 70 into our little mini financial model, and this time we include a line for taxes on the EBITDA just below there, and the 50% tax rate produces that, and we get the same IRR. And now, if in the other scenarios I changed a bit, I didn't have 50%, but we still get our IRR with 30%. Okay, and then if we go downstairs and do exactly the same thing, and put it in the real case instead of the nominal case, we still get the same thing, and we still get it in our other case. And in this case, we have degradation, we have taxes, we have real and we have a real and a nominal case, and then we take our financial model and oops, I don't want to see that. We want to take our pre-tax. No, I thought we wanted to take our pre-tax rate. We don't. Okay, good. Uh, then we put just a minute. I gotta stop this. I gotta stop this while he's sending me all these little things. Okay, I hope I remember where I was interrupted by that little Skype crap thing here. What I've done here is then, of course, of course, I hate the fact that I say of course all the time, but we use the little model where we have the revenues and we have even the degradation in the generation, and we finally get the nominal revenues. So we take the NPV of these revenues uh, uh, and we relate that to the NPV of the generation. And we don't make, this time, you still use the original, you don't use the pre-tax discount rate. You still use the regular old real and nominal discount rate. And I kind of put what the result of the NPV of revenues divided by the NPV of generation and put a little test here. You know, this is what I've been arguing. When you get to the cost one, it's kind of interesting. You take the total capex, and I didn't really realize this, but you have to pay taxes on that capital recovery. So now we got to put a 50% tax rate and take all of our costs up here and divide it by 1 minus the tax rate. Now, just to make sure I didn't have any mistake, because there's a 50% tax rate, we compare this one. Again, I'll take, when you're copying, I think it's a really good idea to lock a couple of things in if you're going to use them again. And then we can make our test of this method. So finally, oops, and sometimes you might have to use the round of this minus this, comma 0 equals 0. Okay, and we can copy this one. All right, so we have these methods. And finally, let's look at the last one. I hope the last one, that produced the nominal amount too. This is this thing where we put the inflated price. Now, if I would have put the real price in, you wouldn't have to do the weighting of the average and all that. So we can just do a discount rate, get a weighting factor. Remember, we take the NPV of the generation. This is our NPV factor at the nominal rate because we're testing the nominal amount. And then I'm going to put a formula text on this one. Oh, okay, and then on this, let's do one more thing on this in this case, and if we're going to include the income tax, let's at minimum account for the tax shield, and perhaps we should put the tax shield right underneath this. So we could put tax life, and that could be different. I keep on saying, of course, it could be different than the book life. So it could be, maybe there's a special program where this has got 5 years, this has got 10 years, and this has got 20 years. Okay. Oop. Did I press Shift Control 1? And then, I suppose on this one, I better copy this one down to get our index function in there. And then in Excel, if you want a really flexible method, you can put a variable declining factor, and 1 is straight line, okay? And this is kind of going to be a factor. So we could put, this could be a straight line, this could be a double declining balance, this could be 1.5 double declining balance, and this is straight line again. Okay, and once we have that, once we have that, let's just go, before we enter this, let's go and put a